There are men who, after decades of sharing a life with their wives, suddenly realize they no longer feel as close as they once did. It's not because the love is gone. It's not because of a dramatic event, but because an invisible distance has quietly grown between them. As the years go by, marriage changes. The bond that once felt effortless can become harder to maintain. Some men admit they feel distant, speak less, and even become easily irritated with the partner who once meant everything to them. But does this mean love has disappeared? The answer isn't that simple. Behind those emotions lie silent reasons few are willing to talk about. In this video, we'll uncover why many husbands in later life feel a growing gap with their wives, and more importantly, what can be done to rebuild the connection that was once so strong. Before we begin, I'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching from today? Leave a comment with your city or country below. And if this topic speaks to your heart, be sure to subscribe so we can explore these important conversations together. Because sometimes just one moment of understanding is enough to change the course of an entire marriage. Reason 1: when physical attraction is no longer the bridge. One of the earliest shifts many older husbands experience is the slow fading of physical attraction. This change is often misunderstood. It's not simply about no longer finding their wives appealing. In many cases, it's also about how they see themselves. Take Robert, 72, for example. He once described his wife as the most beautiful woman he had ever met. He still loves her deeply, but over time he noticed something had changed. It wasn't just her appearance that felt different to him, but his own body as well. The energy he once took for granted seemed to fade. His confidence in initiating closeness weakened. Biologically, men often link love and connection to physical intimacy. As they age, testosterone levels drop, muscle mass declines, and energy becomes harder to sustain. With these changes, desire can waver. What was once natural now feels uncertain, and with uncertainty comes hesitation. Socially, many men were never taught how to express vulnerability about these changes. They may feel embarrassed to admit they're struggling. Instead of opening up, they pull back. Not because the love is gone, but because they fear rejection or judgment. Imagine a bridge between two people built over years through attraction and closeness. When that bridge starts to weaken, the distance can grow if nothing replaces it. The challenge is that while physical sparks may dim, emotional connection can still burn brightly if both partners know how to tend it. Science supports this idea. Research shows that couples who invest in shared experiences, deep conversations, and affectionate gestures can maintain strong bonds even when physical intimacy changes. A gentle glance across the table, a warm touch on the shoulder. Small intentional acts can keep the emotional bridge sturdy even when the physical one feels less certain. If a husband withdraws because he feels his body is failing him, the wife may misinterpret it as loss of love. This misunderstanding can add another layer of distance. That's why awareness matters. Recognizing the root cause is the first step to finding a solution. For some, this means adjusting expectations and exploring new ways to be close. For others, it's about addressing health concerns that may be reducing energy and confidence. Simple lifestyle changes like improving circulation, exercising together, or focusing on nutrition can make a difference both physically and emotionally. So, if you've noticed a change in closeness with your partner, ask yourself, has the bridge simply shifted? Is it time to rebuild it in a different way? I'd love to know if you've ever seen a relationship where attraction changed, but the bond stayed strong. Share your thoughts in the comments with the number 1. Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Up next, we'll look at another quiet force that creates distance: unresolved conflicts that cause men to shut down emotionally. Reason 2: unresolved conflicts that cause men to shut down. When people think about pain in a marriage, they often imagine the wife as the one most affected. But men feel it too. The difference is many men have been conditioned not to show it. Take William, now 70. He spent years building a life with his wife, sharing responsibilities, raising children, and facing challenges together. Yet over time, small disagreements began to pile up: tiny criticisms, passing remarks, or quiet disagreements that were never truly resolved. At first, he tried to explain himself, but each time he felt misunderstood or dismissed, his willingness to talk faded. This is a pattern many older men know well. When they feel unheard, they stop speaking. When they feel criticized, they stop trying. Not because they no longer care, but because silence feels safer than confrontation. From a psychological perspective, this is called emotional withdrawal. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's deeply damaging. It creates a kind of invisible wall in the marriage. The wife may think everything is fine because he's not complaining, but inside he's retreating further and further. This quiet retreat often comes from upbringing. Many men grew up in environments where expressing feelings was discouraged. Phrases like, "don't make a fuss," or "be a man" taught them to suppress emotion rather than share it. Over decades, that habit becomes almost unbreakable. The danger is that unresolved conflicts don't disappear. They simply go underground, shaping the way a man sees his partner. Every unspoken frustration becomes another brick in the wall between them, and one day the couple realizes they're standing on opposite sides of something too tall to climb over. Studies in marital psychology show that unresolved tension has a stronger long-term effect than even major arguments. Why? Because while big conflicts force some kind of resolution, silent tension just sits there, eroding trust, intimacy, and empathy over time. For a man in later life, the emotional cost is heavy. He may start spending more time alone, avoiding situations that could spark a disagreement. He might immerse himself in hobbies, television, or long walks, anything to escape the discomfort of facing the issues head-on. The truth is, most of these situations can be softened with one thing: acknowledgement. When a wife notices the silence and asks with genuine care, "I feel you've been quieter lately, what's on your mind?" it can open a door. Not all men will walk through it right away, but the act of noticing matters. Have you ever seen a man go quiet in his own home? Or perhaps you've been on the receiving end of someone's silence. If so, leave the number 2 in the comments. Your story could help another couple recognize what's happening before the wall grows higher. Coming next, we'll explore an even more subtle form of distance when the comfort of familiarity slowly turns into emotional loneliness. Reason 3, when familiarity slowly turns into emotional loneliness. After decades together, many couples find themselves in a familiar routine. They live under the same roof, share meals, and exchange polite daily questions like, "How was your day?" On the surface, everything looks fine, but underneath, something important is missing. John 76 once described it this way: "We're still together, but I don't feel the need to talk anymore. Every day feels exactly like the last." This is emotional loneliness, the sense of being alone even when someone is right beside you. In the early years of marriage, little moments of connection were everywhere. A long conversation after dinner, a walk hand in hand, a spontaneous laugh over something small. These interactions were the threads that wove two lives together. But over time, life's responsibilities, raising children, working long hours, managing a home, can bury those moments. The closeness once built from daily attention begins to fade. Familiarity, which used to bring comfort, now feels like a quiet cage. For many older men, this change is so gradual they hardly notice it. They stop sharing their thoughts, not because they have nothing to say, but because they've forgotten the habit of opening up. Conversations become shallow. The hugs and kisses become rare. They coexist instead of truly connecting. Psychologists warn that this type of slow, emotional drift can be more damaging than arguments. Conflict at least sparks dialogue. Silence leaves both partners isolated in their own worlds. For men, acknowledging loneliness can be especially difficult. They may feel ashamed to admit it, or they may not have the language to express it. So instead, they spend more time alone, sitting in another room, lingering outside longer, or avoiding eye contact. These small acts of withdrawal are often misread as indifference, when in fact they signal a deep need for reconnection. The good news is that emotional intimacy can be rebuilt. It doesn't require grand gestures. It begins with small, deliberate acts, making eye contact, asking meaningful questions, or sharing a story from the past. Even a single moment of genuine interest can reopen a door that's been closed for years. If you've ever lived with someone and felt like you were worlds apart, you know how heavy that silence can be. It's not about being physically alone. It's about not feeling understood or valued by the person closest to you. Have you ever experienced that kind of quiet distance with a spouse, a friend, or even a family member? If so, leave the number 3 in the comments. Your words might help someone else feel seen. Up next, we'll move into a deeper and more personal struggle when a man faces a midlife crisis and begins questioning not just his marriage, but the entire path of his life. Reason 4, the midlife crisis. When a husband begins to question himself and his marriage. There comes a point in many men's lives when they stop and look around, not because their health has suddenly failed, not because love has disappeared, but because something deep inside starts asking uncomfortable questions. Questions like, have I done enough with my life? Is this really the future I want? How much time do I have left to feel alive? David, 68, experienced this shortly after retiring. For decades, he believed his purpose was simple work, hard provide for his family and be a steady partner. But one quiet morning as he sipped his coffee, he felt a hollow space he couldn't ignore. He looked at his wife and thought, is this the life I chose or the one I just drifted into? This is the essence of a midlife crisis, though. For many men, it comes not in the middle of life, but in its later chapters. It's not a dramatic breakdown, but a gradual awakening to the gap between what they once dreamed and the reality they live each day. The regret may be small, a trip never taken, a passion, never explored, a conversation left unsaid, but over time it builds into restlessness. Often the person closest to them, their wife, becomes the unintended outlet for this internal turmoil. Not because she caused it, but because she is the most visible reminder of the life they've built. A man in this state may become critical, emotionally distant, or suddenly eager to change everything around him. It's a way of wrestling with the question he doesn't know how to answer. Who am I now? From a psychological perspective, this period is a confrontation with one's identity. Men in later life often feel torn between a longing for stability and a fear of stagnation. They want to feel young and purposeful again, but they're unsure how to achieve it. Without open communication, that inner conflict can turn into resentment, directed not at life itself, but at the person who shares it with them. For the wife, this shift can feel confusing or hurtful. One day everything seems fine. The next, her husband is questioning decisions they made together decades ago. She may wonder if his dissatisfaction means he no longer loves her. In most cases, the truth is more complex. He's struggling with his own reflection, not rejecting hers. The path forward often begins with conversation. When both partners can speak openly about regrets, unfulfilled dreams, and what still matters to them, it can transform a crisis into an opportunity for renewal. New goals, shared adventures, and even small changes in daily life can restore a sense of meaning. Have you ever witnessed someone close to you go through this kind of inner questioning? Or maybe you felt that pull yourself. If so, share the number 4 in the comments. Your insight could help someone else realize they're not alone in this journey. Next, we'll explore another subtle but powerful force that creates distance when two people grow in different directions and no longer share the same values or way of life. Reason 5, when lifestyles and values no longer align. After years, sometimes decades of sharing the same home, raising children, and navigating life's ups and downs, some couples discover an unsettling truth. They may still love each other, yet they no longer live in the same world. Their daily choices, interests, and even core values have shifted in different directions. Alan, 73, once explained it like this: I still care for my wife, but it feels like we're speaking different languages. The things that excite me don't interest her, and what she enjoys I can't seem to connect with. There hasn't been a big fight or a dramatic betrayal, just a gradual drift. This change often emerges slowly. As people age, they tend to focus more on what feels meaningful to them personally. For some, that means traveling, learning something new, or embracing a more active lifestyle. For others, it's about staying close to family, keeping familiar routines, or enjoying quiet hobbies. When these directions don't match, the shared ground between partners begins to shrink. At first, the differences may seem small. He enjoys early morning walks. She prefers reading in bed. He wants to try new restaurants. She feels happiest cooking at home. Over time, these little divergences add up. Conversations become shorter, activities together become fewer, and the emotional bond can weaken. From a psychological standpoint, this is called growing apart through personal evolution. Both partners are still changing, but not in parallel. One person's growth may unintentionally create distance from the other, leaving both feeling unseen or misunderstood. The most dangerous part of this process is that it's often invisible. Without arguments or visible conflict, it's easy to believe the relationship is fine. But in reality, the connection is quietly eroding. This can leave a husband feeling lonely even while sitting next to the woman he spent his life with. The good news is differing lifestyles and values don't have to end a marriage. They can become opportunities to learn from one another if both are willing to listen without trying to change the other. Exploring each other's interests, finding new shared activities, or revisiting old ones can rebuild a sense of unity. In some cases, it's as simple as showing genuine curiosity. When one partner says, "Tell me more about why this matters to you," it opens a door. It says, "I may not share your passion, but I care because you care." This kind of empathy can bridge even wide lifestyle gaps. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt like you were growing in different directions? Or maybe you've tried to reconnect but didn't know where to begin? If so, share the number 5 in the comments. Your experience might inspire someone else to take the first step back toward common ground. Up next, we'll look at another often hidden challenge: how financial stress in the transition into retirement can quietly weaken even the strongest bonds. Reason 6: when financial stress and retirement worries quietly break the bond. For many men, retirement is imagined as a reward after decades of hard work, a time for rest, freedom, and enjoyment. But when the moment finally arrives, reality often feels very different. The steady rhythm of a paycheck is gone. The familiar identity tied to a career disappears, and in its place comes a quiet question: who am I now? Martin, 71, spent over 40 years as the main provider for his family. His job wasn't just about income, it was about purpose. Every morning he knew his role, but after retiring, the absence of that role felt unsettling. When medical bills increased and household expenses didn't shrink as expected, anxiety began to creep in. Financial stress in later life isn't always about not having enough money, it's about feeling a loss of control. For men who have long defined themselves as protectors and providers, the shift can feel like losing a part of their identity. And instead of talking about it, many stay silent. They don't want to worry their wives, they don't want to admit they feel uncertain. But that silence carries a cost. A simple question like, "How should we adjust the budget this month?" can feel to him like criticism or doubt in his ability to provide. The result, he withdraws further, avoiding conversations that might touch on finances or his sense of worth. Psychologists refer to this as a post-career identity crisis. When a man loses the structure and recognition his work once gave him, it can shake his confidence in other areas, especially in his marriage. Without emotional support, these feelings can quietly chip away at closeness. For the wife, the change might be puzzling. She sees her husband more often at home, yet he seems distracted or irritable. She may misinterpret his mood as disinterest in her, when in truth he's wrestling with fears about relevance, capability, in the future. The way forward starts with safe, non-judgmental conversations. Small reassurances, a kind word, a touch on the arm, or asking sincerely, "How are you feeling about this stage of life?" can go a long way. Practical steps help too, such as planning budgets together as a team or exploring part-time work or volunteer roles that restore a sense of purpose. The most important thing to remember is that worth is not defined by a paycheck. What truly matters in this chapter is the ability to support and care for one another through change. Have you noticed someone close grow distant after retiring, or felt the way financial pressure can affect a relationship? If so, share the number 6 in the comments. Your words might help another couple realize they're facing the same challenge. Next, we'll step into one of the most personal areas of all: what happens when physical intimacy fades and a husband no longer feels desired by the woman he loves. Reason 7: when physical intimacy fades and a husband no longer feels desired. There's a certain kind of sadness many older men carry quietly. It's not about a lack of love, It's not even entirely about the changes in their bodies. It's about no longer feeling wanted, no longer feeling seen as a man by the woman they love. George 74 described it simply, "I don't blame my wife. We're both getting older. But it's been years since she touched me, no hug, no kiss, not even a gentle hand on my arm. I don't need much. I just want to know I still matter to her." Aging brings changes that can affect intimacy. Hormone levels drop, medications can reduce desire, and health issues can make physical closeness more challenging. But often the deepest pain isn't about the act itself, it's about the absence of small signs of affection. Those little touches and moments of closeness once came naturally. When they fade away, the silence can feel heavier than words. Men may respond to this loss in quiet ways. Some stop initiating contact to avoid rejection. Others distract themselves with work hobbies or television. Over time, they may even avoid bedtime routines that once brought them together. This is a form of emotional self-protection, pulling away before they can feel the sting of being turned down. The irony is that many wives interpret this withdrawal as a lack of interest. They assume their husbands no longer want intimacy, when in reality he may want it deeply, but feels it's no longer welcome. Research in relationships shows that physical intimacy, even in small gestures, plays a vital role in emotional health. A hand held during a walk, a hug in the kitchen, or a whispered, "I love you," can reassure a partner that they are still valued. These moments don't require youthful energy or perfect health, they require intention. For couples facing this stage, the path back doesn't have to be dramatic. It can start with something as simple as sitting closer, holding hands while watching TV, or offering a sincere compliment. These small acts can rebuild trust in physical closeness and remind both partners that love is still alive. If you've seen this kind of quiet distance in your own life, or in the life of someone you care about, you know how easily it can grow if left unspoken. Breaking that silence is an act of courage. Sometimes all it takes is one moment, a gentle touch, a kind word to make a partner feel seen again. Have you ever felt unnoticed in a relationship, or witnessed someone change when they no longer felt desired? If so, share the number 7 in the comments. Your words could be the encouragement another couple needs to reach for each other again. Next, we'll bring everything together in a conclusion, how to see these challenges not as endings, but as opportunities to begin again. Conclusion: love doesn't have to fade with time. When a husband says he no longer feels close to his wife, it doesn't always mean the love is gone. More often, that love is still there, just buried under the weight of years' unspoken worries and the quiet habits of distance. As we've seen, there are many silent forces that can create this gap. The fading of physical attraction, old conflicts left unresolved, the slow drift into emotional loneliness, the questions and restlessness of a midlife crisis, differences in values and lifestyle, financial stress and the loss of identity after retirement, and the deep ache of feeling undesired. None of these alone has to end a marriage. But when they layer on top of each other, they can make even a strong bond feel fragile. Marriage in later life asks something different from us than it did in the beginning. It calls for patience where once there was passion, understanding where once there was excitement, and a deeper kind of closeness built not just on attraction, but on mutual respect, kindness, and shared history. The good news: it is never too late to begin again. Every day offers small chances, a kind word at breakfast, a hand held during a walk, a shared memory over dinner. These moments are not just gestures. They are lifelines pulling two people back toward each other. Psychologists agree that emotional distance is not a final chapter unless we allow it to be. It's a signal, a gentle knock at the door, reminding us that connection requires attention. If we choose to answer, the relationship can feel alive again, even after decades together. So ask yourself today, what small act can I offer that might open that door a little wider? A compliment, a touch, a moment of true listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts. How have your feelings in your marriage changed over time? What's been the hardest part to face, and what's helped you through it? Share your story in the comments. You never know who might need to hear it. If you found this message meaningful, please like this video so it can reach more people who may be quietly struggling. Share it with someone you love, someone who might still be holding on but needs a reason to believe in renewal. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep exploring the lessons, the emotions, and the quiet strengths that carry us through life's later chapters. We can't turn back time, but we can always choose to hold hands, to speak with kindness, and to love again and again. Do you want me to now prepare the full compiled script with all parts in one seamless flow?